little remiss of me to ask that those same members not only be subjected to prerequisite training, but also that they be subjected to some sort of questioning from the community about their knowledge of the master plan and the zoning code. You know, maybe not as formal as an election, but series of questioning seminars where they have to attend and have to answer questions directly from people who will be impacted by those zoning measures. So, yes, that's what I'm seeing.
Mr. Kelly?
I agree with everybody that's on the panel. I think that we need training, and I just think that we need to partner with our local educational facilities like RUTGERS and, you know, all of our facilities here, so we can have certificate classes and places that they can go get their certs. And I'm talking about NEWARKers, not just bringing someone from the outside, but NEWARKers. We need to train them so they can properly become, you know, zoning board members. So I definitely agree with everybody that it definitely takes training, but let's train our own and use our educational facilities that we have in our city to help, you know, assist with that.
Thank you. Ms. Freeman?
Yes. How do you ensure the planning board and the zoning board, you get rid of everybody that's sitting on the planning board and zoning board right now? They're just a bunch of cronies. They don't have any experience or any background. You don't have to train them and send them to school. They're appointees. You take the power away from the mayor and the council to put cronies on the board. There are people right here in the city of Newark with degrees in master planning and urban and regional planning that live here right now, and you bring them on, have a resume, as Mrs. Walker stated, and they are vetted by the community. The same hellfire that we're going through to petition and come on board, let them get some petitions signed. And that way they come aboard, they turn in their resumes. This gets rid of the cronies, this gets rid of the phonies, because they're not going to want to work that hard to be on a board where they don't get paid. Thank you.
Ms. Jackson?
Okay, so I hear you're gonna take the pay away from them, so you're right, that may take care of that, right? Currently, they do get a stipend, so I'm kind of with you on that one. That might not have to say anything else. Take the stipend. Yeah. I agree, though. We need to really look at some urban planning, because the way we throw these 7-Elevens and everything up on this corner, and you wake up in the morning and you got a building right next to your house. Like I said, as a community, have got to start demanding some things, and it's just time to shut it down. The next 7-Eleven you see being built, I dare you to stand in front of it.
Mr. Monteversa?
I agree. We have to make sure we check resumes. When people are appointed to these positions, they go before the council. I would vote down anyone that I don't think is adequate for the position. Of course, we need training. That's very important. But we also have to venerate the city's master plan, which is the guide to development in Newark. Changes should only be allowed when there's meaningful input. Spot zoning should not be allowed. Spot zoning is illegal. What happened with MX3 happened because we have people who believe in spot zoning, allow those types of laws even though they're illegal. We need to stop that. We need to make sure that we bring people who are going to stick to the inclusionary zoning ordinance, that are going to stick to the cumulative impacts ordinance. We need to craft better language in our ordinances, make sure that we put teeth and enforce the standards that we're asking Newark to be at. Thank you.
And the final person is Mr. O'Malley.
Well, it's simple. Take the power away from the mayor. It can't be an appointee structure. You're usurping the authority within the structure. I agree with Ms. Freeman. They're well-educated, well-versed individuals within our municipality to assume these positions. As far as the master plan and the zoning code effects are, I think that the structure of them, again, has to come from the majority of the people. You can't sit 10, 15 people in the room and they decide what's going to happen to 286,000 people. It's insane. So based upon those things changing, I think that it'll be more effective.
We're moving on to question 5. I'd like to start. It's a good one. I'd like to start with Mr. Monteroso. Are you for or against Amazon HQ2? What impact will it have on housing in Newark? You have 1 minute.
I'm against bad development. If we move forward on bringing a multi-million-dollar international corporation to Newark, we have to be certain that we conduct a serious cost-benefit analysis. Amazon is getting $2 billion in tax incentives from Newark, in addition to $5 billion from the state, and has paid $0 in federal taxes last year. We need to ensure that the benefits to Newark benefit Newarkers, especially those who are currently unemployed or working 2 jobs and barely making ends meet. Amazon's HQ2 promises to bring approximately 50,000 jobs with it, in addition to a range of 70 to 110 indirect. This is going to impact Newark. We need to make sure that half of those jobs go to Newark residents. We need to make sure that 25,000 jobs in the headquarters reach the senior executives, maintenance staff, and everyone in between. We need to make sure that we have
15 seconds.
Given the growth of the population, we have homes for all, strong and safe neighborhoods that are being funded, as well as better education and making sure that we have these better jobs that are going to allow people to support their families.
Ms. Jackson, question number 5. Are you for or against Amazon HQ2? What impact will it
I'm
have on
absolutely
housing?
against it. That's why I attended the corporate presentation on Tuesday, as well as the phony community presentation on Saturday. I am totally against giving Amazon a 10-year, this is what the city wants to do, a 10-year payroll tax exemption. They don't want them to pay any. I don't know what monster came up with that, but we can't afford it. If we have any billions to give anybody, we need to give our employees a raise and let them have a livable wage so that they can Secondly, Amazon is also talking about putting a homeless shelter on the first floor of their new headquarters building. I encourage them to build a residential studio buildings so that the homeless people can go in there. I think people deserve to have a unit of their own to call their own. And if they have that much money, they can do that.
Mr. Nickerson.
Totally opposed to it. Anybody who's ever worked for Amazon knows it's a slave driving company. And it works people long hours for low pay. No way. Cannot come here. We sit up here and we cite all these numbers about, you know, what they said, how many they said they're going to hire. The truth of the matter is they're not. They're going to import workers from other cities outside of Newark, going to pay them those low wages and send them on about their way. So no, resounding no.
Ms. Freeman.
Here's the thing. Amazon coming in sounds like a great deal because the Reverend Baraka has anointed it so and comes up with these flowery terms, but Amazon, there's no control. If you want to see what will happen, look at Nutley when Roche shuttered and left, okay? If you want to see what's going to happen, all you have to do is look at company towns in Michigan where there was shuttered. That's the type of thing that happens when you let a creature like that come in. If they come in, it has to be with better controls and 50% of the employees definitely from the city of Newark and those $100,000 a year jobs, not the little low-paying nothing jobs. That's the difference.
Thank you. Ms. Walker.
First and foremost, no. Today I picked up the suit against Amazon that's been filed, and I'm going through that suit. I spoke before the municipal council earlier this week, and asked many of them questions. Of there seemed to be the only one that knew something or could answer questions was Councilwoman Cheneyfield Jenkins. But in that particular package that I picked up today, that I'm going through now, all of the other cities that are vying for this are showing their proposals and laying out the financial pieces of that. The devil is in the details. We need to look at that financial structure and see how it will impact on our city, the residents, what it's consisting of bringing into our city. What are we offering them besides giving them $2 billion that we can't afford to give them, giving them a free payroll tax freeze for years that we cannot, when we can't pay per diem workers in the city. So I'm looking at the whole detail of that package, and I haven't, but I'm
We're
gonna.
out of time. Mr. Mock.
Just looking at the last 4 years of my tax bill, $5,600 in 2014 and a little bit over $7,800 now presently. Just looking at that. And that's 2 houses. And so looking at Panasonic come here, no jobs. Looking at Blue Cross Blue Shield come here from Florham Park, no jobs. So this will be the 3rd punch in your face? Really? Okay, so
30 seconds.
you're basically telling me that I'm going to give a $1 billion corporation more tax dollars from my pocket. You're telling me I'm going to do. You didn't ask me. You did not ask me, and you said 10 years. This is what we're going to do, on the promise that 50,000 jobs are going to come here. So unequivocally, no.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas.
I am 100% against Amazon HQ2. As a homeowner, I don't want to have to pay for them being here. I'm tired of paying for corporate North, period. And the jobs that we get are menial labor jobs. I've also worked for Amazon part-time, and it is slave labor. And those are the jobs that they will give us. And I have 2 master's degrees. And when I applied to Amazon, I was a package handler. So, and look at Prudential. Majority of us do not work in there unless we're security officers. And Panasonic as well. So I'm completely 100% against Amazon HQ2, and it's an attempt to completely take advantage of North. Thank you.
Mr. Kelly.
You know, it looks great, sounds great on the outside, and yeah, it looks great, it sounds great, but I've been doing some research on it, and the numbers, you know, they just don't sound like they're for the people. They don't sound like they're for Northers. They don't sound like they're for residents. And when you say 50,000 jobs, yes, that sounds like it's for Northers. But when you, like as former councilwoman said, you know, the devil is in the details. How does that translate to our community? How does that translate to our people? See, my thing is that when you're part of Newark, when it's down, you want to be part of the renaissance when it's happening as well.
15 seconds.
But you can't be part of that renaissance if it's not for you.
10 seconds. Thank you.
No.
Okay. Thank you. We're moving on.
Question 6. Over half of the city's apartment buildings are not registered with the city of Newark or with rent control. How would you address this problem? You have 1 minute to answer. Mr. Monterosa?
Landlords have interactions with the city constantly. It's a shame that we don't know what the rents are right now or where what units are being registered. Because landlords pay taxes, right? So why don't we get them on the hook right there? Landlords have to come and make sure they get a certificate of occupancy so that people can live there. Why don't we put the hook on them right there? If landlords register with a clerk and not with rent control, why don't we get them at the rent control's office? Or at the clerk's office, or vice versa. The job is not being done right now. We need to make sure that the different departments in City Hall are talking to each other so that we can be able to address this problem. That's how we're going to make sure that we register all these units.
Mr. Kelly?
I think that we need to we need to strengthen our code enforcement. Our code enforcement and maybe have them partner with the quality of life task force that is currently in our police department. If they claim that it's not enough people in the code enforcement, then let's build a unity between the task force and the code enforcement so they can go after different situations and make sure that these people, these landlords are registered within the city, you know, so we can have this. Thank you very much.
Ms. Walker?
Once again, I think that many of the departments in the city of Newark are detached. They're not working together in order to make sure that these homeowners, these landlords are registering their units with them. A lot of times when you have fire going, when you have inspectors going, when they come in to pay their taxes, when they come in to pay their water bills, you have all this information on it. There should be some type of database that's listed to say, Ms. Walker, you should be registered. Your home should be
30
registered.
seconds.
So I think that we should look at really doing a comprehensive tying together and connecting these various
15 seconds.
departments to make sure that we comply with registering of units throughout the city of Newark.
Mr. Nickerson?
I think the solution to this problem is very simple. If you want people that are property owners to be registered with rent control in the city of Newark, merely if they do not, the penalty should be financial. You should have to pay a penalty for every day that you are late with registering for rent control. Because if you do not register with rent control, it shows the city that you are not concerned with quality living for residents in the city of Newark. Therefore, you should pay a penalty every day.
30 seconds.
When I am elected, that penalty will go into effect.
Thank you. Mr. Ahmad?
I think that penalties of financial means have to be placed on each and every either homeowner or developer within our municipality borders. I think that only based upon hitting their pockets will they understand the means of what the effect that they're giving our people. And so by doing that, we then will be able to bring the issues under control and be more effective with the issues of addressing the needs of the people. Minus doing that, the system will continue to fail the people and the people will continue to be displaced. So if the departments are not talking, and some of my colleagues here have already said it.
15 seconds.
Just reiterating the same point. If these departments are not talking, then it's ineffective
10
leadership
seconds.
from the mayor's office, as well as if you are the elected council person, then you need to have your aides going around and checking these buildings yourself.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas?
I hate to answer a question with a question. First of all, how did this problem happen? You know, what measures do we have in place to make sure that the buildings are registered? And if we do have those measures in place, why aren't they being enforced? We don't need to reinvent a wheel here. We need to follow what's already on the books and what we have already established. So, and also piggybacking off of Ms. Walker, I think we need a database,
30 seconds.
a technological database that sends alerts when registrations are due, or when there's a new person taking over a property,
15
we can
seconds.
definitely program a database to do that and an alert to pop up and somebody to monitor that.
10
So
seconds.
we definitely need to leverage our technology.
Ms. Freeman.
Okay, how do we address the problem? You get rid of your sitting council is how you address the problem. The problem is, this registry and the information already exists. It's not being tapped into, it's not tied together, and it's purposeful because slumlords pay campaigns. And so they're not gonna go against their funders to make this happen. So the registry doesn't exist because slumlords pay campaigns. And all the nice, pretty, colorful signs that you see, that's slumlord money that paid for those lawn signs and all of that. That's how do you end it? This is how you end it, people. You had to vote. Use your vote. Get out there. The technology exists. They sent code enforcement to Baltimore. There's transparency where people can type in and make a complaint. The code enforcement can see where it is. People can dime out landlords. It's available. It's not being utilized.
What do you do? Well, my first year, I guess I'm gonna hire about 1,000 code enforcement people. I'm not checking just apartment buildings, I'm checking houses as well, because these people with these illegal conversions have 15 people sleeping on the first floor, second floor. So there needs to be a revamping, there needs to be a joint city-state effort, because people are getting away with a lot. That does begin with you guys beginning to open your minds and elect fresh people. When we don't like what's going on, we need to learn how to change things. But at the end of the day, there is a lot of abuse going on with registration. Yes, campaign contributions have a lot to do with it, but we also have a lack of enforcement. As we talked before, the landlord-tenant court must be changed, because when those violations don't happen, we do not have the support there, and we have to strengthen all levels of governments to make this work.
Thank you.
Question number 7. A significant number of residents lacked heat and hot water this winter. How would you strengthen the city's code enforcement department? I'd like to start first with Mr. Ahmad.
Each and every home, each and every apartment inside the buildings, I would make the owner stay within the borders of that house or that home for that entire winter. Not doing that, they will serve 30 days in our lovely, convenient jail. That will be step 1. Step 2, fine starting at $5,000 will begin based upon
30 seconds.
the non-remittance of each and every violation within the structure of that house or that building.
Thank you. Mr. Nickerson.
I think the first measure is to, again, have those same property owners actually living in those dwellings where there is no heat or hot water. I think the second measure should be to have some sort of transitional and temporary assistance for those residents that are living in those facilities, because we can cry all day about how there's no heat or hot water, but when we have a slumlord there, we can't wait for the courts to step in. There needs to be some immediate relief to those families at the time, whether it is some form of financial assistance, or whether it is giving them some sort of temporary transitional housing in the meantime. We have to understand that getting rid of slumlords is not a overnight process.
15 seconds.
It's a very long, complex process. You have the wrong people owning property in this city, and we gotta get rid of them. One step at a time. Yeah, so I stand for quality
Time.
in the state of,
Thank you.
in the city of Newark, Jamari Spears.
Ms. Jackson.
Well, as I said before, we first need to take a page from New York. While we are so afraid to step out and rally and hold press conferences in front of our buildings with these atrocious conditions to put these landlords, AKA mostly the Jewish Federation, on blast because they are most of the owners, and we should not be afraid to challenge them. And I don't know where this fear came from us in this short time. Also, the code enforcement staff not only needs to be beefed up, the fire department staff needs to be, we have very little inspectors that can go out and write the necessary documentation. And then lastly, I would probably remove every judge that sits in the city of Newark, that sits at the county of Essex. I would bother with my state representatives because they are allowed into bargaining in court. When the landlord gotta pay $1 million, he gotta pay $1 million plus sleep on the porch.
Ms. Thomas.
I think we only have like eight code enforcement employees. Is that it's 20 now? Oh, okay. Last summer it was 8. Oh, okay. So they added more. Okay. First of all, we need more code enforcement officers. And they need to be trained and they need to be out there utilizing their technology. Last year when they came and sat at our neighborhood meeting, they had these iPads where they were tracking the issues with buildings and residential properties, but they haven't really utilized it. And some of them don't even know how to use the iPad. So I think that's like a complete waste. So we need to retrain them. We need to add more people on the department, and we also do need more fire inspectors. And residents lacking heat and hot water is real because people have come down to my office and I've shared resources with them where they can file a complaint against landlords. So when we also have to
Stop, you're out of time. Thank you
we
very
have to
much.
work together
Mr.
to help the
Kelly.
residents.
Mr. Kelly.
Just like I spoke about earlier, we definitely need to strengthen our code enforcement. And I believe by doing that, we can utilize what we already have here. You know, we have a quality of life task force that is in the police department, and I ask, what are they doing? You know, we need to get them together with code enforcement, make it one enforcement team so that they can go out and tackle all of these issues that is plaguing us within our city. We have ordinances in these cities that protect our renters and protect our residents that are not being utilized. So there need to be heftier fines, there need to be heftier penalties, and, you know, people need to be held accountable in a serious way.
Thank you. Ms. Freeman.
First of all, the ordinances are poorly written, so the code enforcement officers go out, there's nothing they can do. It's your city council and your corporation council that have poorly written ordinances. They're unenforceable. So you need enforceable ordinances. Then you need staff that can actually do the job. An iPad, I see toddlers playing with the iPad and using an iPad. That an adult doesn't know how to use an iPad for their job is unexcusable, but
30
that's
seconds.
called patronage and cronyism. So get rid of the crony, get real people in, rewrite the ordinances so that they are enforceable. The judges, they're atrocious, but they can't enforce the law because the laws are poorly
15
written.
seconds.
Plain and simple. Your city council has not been doing their job. Fire them, hire new
10
ones.
seconds.
Hire me.
Thank you. Ms. Walker.
I concur with a lot of the replies that have been given. First, increase the amount of inspectors on both shifts, day and night, out there because the night becomes the worst part of them. So we need to have more on the evening shift to answer those calls. Finally, to also increase the fines so that they are substantial, so that landlords know that, wow, $5,000, $2,000 more, that will be coming out of their pockets will cost them, I think they'll be more inclined to do it. Then work with, you gotta change the structure in the courthouse so you can get these landlords into court much faster than what you're doing now with them. And then teach people how to utilize the system to make people aware. Some people sit in the cold and you don't even know that they're there, so we need to publicize. We're here to help you get in the system.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. All right, moving along to question number 8. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Monterosa, forgive me. We can't leave you out. We can't do that. So.
The city's code enforcement department needs more employees and therefore needs needs a lot of funding. We must look at models. I was impressed by Union City. I travel courts all across the state. They cite and collect efficiently. We need regular housing meetings as well, because if the council was doing their job, they would know about the conditions that were going on. We also need to put in more code enforcement because we'll get a significant return on investment, because the citations will generate revenue. What we need is for the prosecutor not to forgive these problems. When we were at 1/3 Street and there was that huge hole in the backyard and seniors were paying for parking, we had to get the prosecutor to stop forgiving this. And we only did that by organizing tenants. I hear a lot about changing the RCO. That can't happen for 2.5 years. I hear a lot about getting rid of judges. That can't happen unless the administrative office of the courts get involved. I mean, that's outside of our municipal power. We also have to make sure that government and civilian officials, police officials are deputized to do the same.
Thank you.
Moving along, we have question 8. How would you ensure real community engagement before legislation comes before council? You have 1 minute to answer the question. And we're going to start with Ms. Freeman on that question.
Real community engagement means actually going into the community and inviting the community to come into City Hall, having meetings, attending meetings, not parties, not bringing cookies to the seniors and chicken, coming out into the community, seeing what is actually going on, what I do now. As a social worker and as a graduate student in social work, I'm in the community all the time. If you go to my Facebook page, you get to see what the community is suffering under. Council doesn't know this because they don't go out. That's how you address legislation. You have to see how the people are living and then get their input before you, as an employee, take action.
Mr. Ahmad.
Each council member are allotted 5 representatives from their office. Those individuals have to be engaged in each of the wards. As they're engaged in each of the wards, they're bringing back the information to you of what it is that they've seen, what it is that they've heard, where the issues are. You, as the representative, you are addressing those issues long before the legislation ever reaches your desk. So by doing that and acquiring
30 seconds.
a listing of all the individuals that are within all 5 wards, you're going to have community engagement effectively, consistently, ongoingly, not just for the upcoming legislative issue, but also for all issues.
15 seconds. Ms. Thomas?
To ensure real community engagement, you have to live in a community. You have to actually be a member of the community by participating in the activities and the associations that are in the community. For an example, in the West Ward, I'm a part of the Heart of Ellsberg. And we interact with each other consistently throughout the month. We're accessible to each other, and we have created an accountability document where we identify the issues in our community, and we take pictures, and we invite people in the council to go and check those sites out. And that type of engagement has been really effective.
10 seconds.
But But yeah, you have to be a part of the community. And even working on Rector Street, I get to hear stories
Your time's
about
up, Ms. Thomas.
how people live, and thank you.
Ms. Walker?
Y'all look tough.
We have just a short time to answer the question. One of the things, there are a couple of things that I would do. I would have numerous informational sessions throughout all wards at least 2 to 3 times a year. I would also utilize the cable station on 78 to have an informational station, maybe a half an hour to inform people of information. And then I would put information on the website. And a lot of times, just like they do campaign literature, a lot of times, real important stuff, you need to mail through to people's homes.
30 seconds. Mr. Monterosa?
With no boasting, I'm very proud to say that this is what I've done the most in my life. I've engaged people. And I have to say that right now I've been very happy with the last 2 months because I've been able to engage people right in the community. I've been at Broad End Market, I've been at several public housing and low-income housing complexes, I've been knocking on doors and talking to people, and what I love about it the most is that they're welcoming me back. I've been there, they know me, and they're telling me what's going on, and I know how we can change it, and we continue organizing people. I'm a staple gun-wielding door knocker. I've been attaching flyers to trees. I've connected throughout NEWARK. For everyone that says that the rent control ordinance was developed in some fly-by-night, some exclusive group, 5 wards, 85 people at our first meeting, public housing, subsidized, market rate tenants, homeowners, those are the people who are at that meeting. I and a part of so many people in this room worked on making sure that we got those people to be engaged. I've done this with A500, RCO, CCRB, the master plan, paths to school plan, I'm connected to the schools, I'm connected to the church of spokes. This is what I do, put an organizer on the council.
Ms. Jackson?
Real community engagement comes in many ways. You have to know the block groups. You have to know the unofficial block groups. You have to know the parent meeting. You have to know the unofficial parent meeting. You have to know the laundromat talk. You have to know the barbershop question. You have to know the supermarket lingo. You have to know the coupon corner. And all of those things together will help you do legislation. Those are the ways to communicate with people. Everybody's not going to come to a community meeting because they feel like they've heard it before, even if it is a very serious legislative issue. So we have to go into those unconventional places to get the word out. So I would do that for something that's in legislation because we don't understand the impact of the things that are going on the local, state, and federal level.
All right, Ms. Jackson.
Mr. Nickerson?
I think the way that we can ensure real community engagement is by being aware that this is the 21st century. People no longer read as well as they would years ago. No one's attention span is as extensive as it was years ago. So we have to use the 21st century platforms that exist, such as social media. Would it be remiss to have a city council legislation posted via social media in the form of a poll or in form of a live Facebook Live or Facebook discussion group? Why not? This is the 21st century, and so we must use 21st century methods. I am indeed an advocate, an educator, and I believe that our system is outdated. If it's not working, fix it, and fix it well.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly?
I just believe to ensure real community engagement, we have to first come out of our cultural silos within this city. You know, it's like 5 different cities in this one city. So first we have to come out of that. And then you can only effectively make change in the community if you have your boots on the ground. You have to be involved. You have to be in the community because if you're not in the community, how do you understand what the community people are talking about, the issues that they are going through? You know? And then what I would do when I'm elected is what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the people on the council with me, that they have to be at those meetings because it's not about a ward, it's about the entire city because we will be at large.
10 seconds. Thank you.
Question number 9. We're going to start with Ms. Walker. Over 40,000 eviction cases are filed in Essex County each year, yet very few residents have legal representation. How would you remedy this problem? You have 1 minute. We won't start until you get the microphone.
I'm going to ask everyone to please, let's have one voice. It is important that the candidates are able to answer the question and everyone can hear. Thank you.
First, I would try to seek to, once again, you have to get into the community and you have to raise the consciousness and awareness of what laws we have to help tenants know their rights while going into court. Then you need to put, I think that there should be a special office of community liaison to share information and to help residents that are in situations navigate the system. Then we should be able, as I did up in the county of Essex, I used to have Essex Newark Legal Service. I used to give them dollars to help fight the tenants that were being evicted and help them get showed cause to stay, stays to stay in their unit, and also give dollars to help them get back into their units. So there are various remedies. As I said, I would use the legal aspect of it, education as a part of it, as the awareness, and put an office in City Hall to help them navigate the system.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Mr. Monterosa.
The city needs to establish a guaranteed right to counsel for tenants. This is the way that we will ensure that tenants are not going to fall through the cracks. Everyone needs a lawyer. Everyone cannot afford a lawyer. At this moment, the Murphy administration has made this a priority. If we get funding to do this, we need a lawyer with a good relationship with the free legal service organizations in the city and throughout the county, throughout the state, so that they provide our Newarkers with good legal representation. Essex Newark Legal Services, where I have worked as I have interned as an attorney, is barely able to represent tenants. Oftentimes, all we could do is educate tenants about their rights. What needs to happen is that people should have a guaranteed lawyer when they are in court. We need to do this with several other organizations that will help people with mental illness, families with children, and also hopefully expand so that it isn't only the very poorest, but several more Newarkers who would be able to benefit from those lawyers.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Ms. Jackson.
I would first create an office of public advocates. I would second create an office of ombudsman, unattached, unbossed, and unbought, someone like myself. I would then work on the legal representation that Mr. Monterosa is talking about, because I'm not familiar. I am familiar with the Essex County legal representation, which has unfortunately not been able to adequately represent most who go there for legal services, be it eviction, be it bankruptcy, etc. So we have to expand the legal representation for all peoples, and I think the Office of Public Advocate is the first place to start.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Amani. We'll wait for the microphone.
I think in the office of a legislator, I think that the most important incentive that you could give your constituency is information. That has to be an ongoing process, long before the eviction ever happens, long before the issue ever occurs. I agree with the Office of Public Advocate. I agree with the Office of Creation of Ombudsman. Without being broad, without being just the fact that you are a worker, is the fact that you're going to receive that representation about your rights and about the issues that you're confronted with inside of the courts, inside of the apartment building, inside of the house. Whatever the issue is, you have guaranteed representation to deal with those issues from beginning to end. to make sure that you're signing off, they're signing off, that everyone's on the same page, not walking away.
Thank you, Mr. Romano. Mr. Kelly.
I believe that we need to figure out a way or find a way to make our marketing and promotion of our services that are due to our residents in Newark. We need to make people more aware. There's so many great things that happen in this city that nobody knows about. And the reason why I say that is because we have clinics right here in Rutgers Law School. We have clinics right here in Seton Hall Law School. And nobody knows that. But they can go right there and get representation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Ms. Freeman.
Yes, I agree Newark is a college town, but you can't just walk into Seton Hall and Rutgers Clinic and get represented. There's a wait list a mile long, and everybody and their mom in the state of New Jersey is coming to Rutgers and Seton Hall to get that. What needs to be done is just like the city founders, city administration can do backyard deals. They need to deal and make an ombudsman's office, a public advocate's office. There are organizations already in place where we could coordinate their efforts and coordinate the efforts of the school. But the grants from the state would have to be utilized for that, not to line your pockets. That's the difference. It can all be done. It's not being done because we're not demanding it, and it's not shiny enough. So it can be done.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. Ms. Thomas.
I like the idea of the public advocate office. I think that's something that could be really effective, but it also does have to be a collaborative effort with different organizations in the city working together on this problem. For example, in my office, we probably, there's 40,000 eviction cases, and yeah, it's a county office, so they all come to my office. And unfortunately, when I do refer them to legal services or Rutgers or Seton Hall, like Ms. Freeman stated, they can't help them. So people are forced to live on the streets or move to other states with a relative. So we definitely have to make this a collaborative effort if we're going to solve that problem. And I do think the public advocate office would be something good. And then we have Gibbons right here, one of the top law firms in the country. We should be going to them and asking them to represent people pro bono.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I have to answer the question.
Oh.
Please answer the question.
Thank you very much. So the first measure that I would take to sort of de-escalate eviction cases in the city is indeed to create a line in the city budget for legal defense. It wouldn't be hard to do that. The second measure that I would take would be to actually create some sort of connection between these private law firms and public citizens to sort of pressure them to offer pro bono services to those that are facing eviction. And we can do that through tax incentives and other financial incentives that exist. And lastly, through, of course, educating tenants about their rights as tenants. Because the language of leases today is finagled to sort of entrap individuals. So a person with a basic education can't understand a lease agreement in the city of New York today. It's just impossible for them to do. And I'm speaking that way as a person that has a master's degree. You can't understand the language of a lease, and just the way that you can use that language to deceive tenants today. So again, my three measures are indeed in favor of quality housing.
Time. Thank you very much. We've actually reached the end, and we want to thank all of the candidates. On behalf of my colleagues, and Homes for All. You know, we have to stay impartial, but it was inspiring to listen to all of you. And thank you so much for coming out and speaking to us all. And thank you all for attending. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shakima K. Thomas, 2018.
Before you leave, if you'd like to become members of Homes for All Newark, we meet on the second Tuesday of each month at 6:30 on 1 New York Avenue. And once again, thank you all for coming. It was wonderful.
Jamarius for Newark, you'll see it. That's my page for the campaign.